In July 2022, when Holly Madison, a one-time Playboy bunny and girlfriend of Hugh Hefner, began probing into the 2009 murder of 28-year-old Playboy party hostess Jasmine Fiore, the ex-playmate was struck by an ugly similarity. While Holly didn't know Jasmine personally, both were pretty blondes with big smiles and bouncing around between photo shoots of Hefner's star-studded mansion parties in the early 2000s. In 2016, the former Playboy bunny wrote a story titled Down the Rabbit Hole, where she claimed there were years of verbal and emotional abuse. Then, in late 2021, the former Girls Next Door star described her traumatic first sexual encounter with magazine mogul Hugh Hefner in the podcast Power Hugh Hefner. In early 2022, she sat down with A&E for The Secrets of Playboy when she claimed that the iconic Playboy mansion was cult-like and that the late Hugh Hefner was emotionally and mentally controlling, dictating everything from the length of her hair to the shade of her lipstick when they dated from 2001 to 2008. As the host and producer of the Discovery Channel's new 6-part docuseries, The Playboy Murders, Holly is shedding light on the tragic deaths of women who wore the iconic bunny ears. Jasmine's brutal killing and Dorothy Stratton, who was killed by her estranged husband and manager Paul Snyder in 1980. There were many times over the 7 years that Holly wanted to leave or was ready to leave, and Hef would kind of swoop in and address whatever issue was at the top of her mind at the time. But for her, it happened when the other women were leaving, and she was the only one left that she thought that this was what she had been wanting for a long time. She thought the problems she had in the relationship were because it was a multi-partner relationship. But when the other women were out of the picture, she saw it more as an aha moment. It made her see who he really was because he couldn't deflect the drama onto the other women anymore. And this is when things got verbally abusive, and she just couldn't take it anymore. Madison said she no longer wanted to be one of Hefner's longtime girlfriends, and in 2008, after wrapping up 5 seasons of The Girls Next Door, she left the Playboy Mansion. She was in a state of shell shock after leaving, and she couldn't even remember what she did on her first day out or what it was like. She just knew she had to hit the ground running as far as establishing a life for herself and a new career, and was basically in survival mode. She needed to find a livelihood, but felt emotionally drained because she was finally realizing who this person was that she had been with for 7 years. She was learning that a lot of people she thought were her friends in her life weren't really friends. They were just there because she was a fixture at the mansion. Now, Madison admitted she was initially worried about exploring crime stories tied to Playboy, but after learning about the cases being featured, she wanted to shed a spotlight on the victims who have been forgotten with time. She was surprised by a lot of the stories because she thought she knew everything about Playboy's history and what had happened to all the playmates. But she actually heard a lot of the stories and wanted to take a deeper dive and try to bring the stories of the victims to the spotlight. Jasmine Fiore was raised in the small town of Bonnie Doon just outside of Santa Cruz, California, and in 2000, an 18-year-old Jasmine auditioned to be a Playboy centerfold, but she didn't make the cut, and instead was selected to serve as a Girls of Playboy golf hostess 6 years later. She was promoted to the position of Playboy event coordinator, organizing branded parties in Los Angeles and Las Vegas. And this is where she met Ryan Jenkins in Vegas, who was a Canadian real estate entrepreneur in his 20s in March of 2009. At the time, he had just been booted off the VH1 reality competition series Megan Wants a Millionaire, starring former Playboy Cybergirl of the Week, Megan Hauserman. During the show's filming, Ryan, who falsely represented himself as a real estate tycoon worth over $2.5 million in order to be cast on the show, expressed his love for Megan in a series of romantic letters. In the Playboy Murders, Megan claims producers forced her to dump him and select another guy as their final match, but she received a call from him 2 days later. And before she got to explain to him what happened, he said he had met the love of his life and that he was married. Ryan and Jasmine tied the knot at Vegas' Little White Chapel on March 18th, less than 48 hours after meeting. He popped the question after discovering their birthdays were just days apart in February. He thought it was a sign she was the one and he had to marry her. Megan said Ryan thought if he couldn't be married to her, he'd find another Playboy model to get married to, but his admiration of Jasmine's beauty and celebrity status had a dark side. And about a month after they got married, he saw her talking to someone, got jealous, and pushed her into the pool, where afterwards, Ryan spent the night in jail after being arrested on a domestic violence charge. and by June, the newlyweds were on the verge of divorce and living separately. So, Ryan reconnected with Megan, seeking her advice over dinner in Los Angeles. And Ryan told her that Jasmine was ruining his life, but that he was also completely obsessed with her not leaving him because he wanted to win and couldn't accept the rejection. Ryan then signed on for the cast of VH1's I Love Money Season 3 in Mexico. While shooting, his sole focus was winning the $250,000 prize in the hopes of regaining Jasmine's affection. Producers even told Megan that he was obsessed with winning the money so he could possibly win back his wife, and that he would constantly call her from the show trying to keep an eye on her. Jasmine ultimately gave in, and on August 13th, she agreed to accompany Jenkins to a poker tournament in San Diego, where they booked a room at the La Berg Del Mar resort. And later that evening, at the tournament, which was held at a nearby location, Jenkins discovered that Jasmine had been secretly texting an ex-boyfriend, Robert Hassman. Her text to Hassman read, "Send a plane for me. Come get me. I'm coming back to Vegas to be with you. I'm done with Ryan Jenkins." When he found out about the message, it infuriated him, sparking a huge argument. And at 4:30 a.m., the cameras showed a frantic Ryan returning to his room alone. But investigators said he left the ground level room through the patio doors and dragged a badly beaten Jasmine inside, and when she tried to call the police, he strangled her to death. Then he was spotted leaving the room again at 9 a.m. with his clothes in hands. The suitcase in which Jasmine had been found was one of the cases that the pair had brought with them to San Diego, leading investigators to make Jenkins their prime suspect in Jasmine's murder. On August 15th, Jasmine's naked and dismembered corpse was found stuffed inside a suitcase discarded in a dumpster in Buena Park, California. The police were initially unable to identify the body because she was missing fingers and teeth. But the killer forgot one item, her breast implants, which were removed during an autopsy and contained unique serial numbers. So an international manhunt began for Ryan in the United States and Canada. Authorities believed he used a speedboat to cross into Point Roberts, Washington, where he was able to cross the border into Canada. And on August 20th, Ryan was officially charged with Jasmine's murder, and a warrant was issued for his arrest. After arriving in Canada, he booked a motel room, where on August 23rd, he was at the Thunderbird Motel in Hope, British Columbia. He was finally found after hanging himself inside the motel room on the same day. He left a suicide note that read, "I'm sorry for running away from my responsibility. Thanks for watching."